for dropping into the Inside Job. It's a podcast where we get a peek into the interior lives of interesting people and find out how we can make our own inside lives better too. We live in a time of huge conflict and challenge, and I'm not going to say unprecedented because that's almost meaningless now. But we're all familiar with the panic at the environmental crisis and the news headlines, and currently the people of Afghanistan are under awful attack. And there's always some kind of fuckery going on in the world. And we feel powerless. I feel so powerless. And it's all a bit bigger than turning off the tap when we brush our teeth or sending a fiver to the Red Cross. It feels much, much bigger than that. My guest today is creative and craftivist Suzi Warren, who decided that instead of raging and moaning about the state of the world, she decided to do what she could, as she says. And what she does is to make witty, beautiful, polite, and very English acts of protest, which have grown into a global movement. And they're full of joy and delight and fun and community connection. She connects people together through her humour and the beautiful things that she creates. And the Stitch It, Don't Ditch It movement gently spreads the message that the fashion industry creates a huge amount of environmental damage, and we contribute to this by buying new clothes. And it shows us what we can do about it ourselves. I started by asking Suzi what it meant to be a craftivist.
Well, the way I use that word, I suppose, is in kind of coming at issues on sort of present day things that worry me in a way that is very polite, very sort of not a protest, but a kind of a kind and sort of humorous response, and using materials and sort of crafts to make my point. I think what I've discovered about my brain quite recently is, and I'm really grateful for this because it never used to be the case. I used to get very angry about almost everything.
Yeah.
And suddenly, maybe I've just got a little bit sort of senile, but now these sort of terrible events or things, lies or things that happen in the outside world enter my brain, and then they go through a kind of purifying system. And what gets sort of spat out the other side, a bit like a sort of Pez dispenser, is, oh, here's something really stupid you could do. And that's kind of how I respond now, with kind of silliness and with a kind of more craft-based thing. So I think what I love about craftism is that it's really gentle. It's really gentle. It's really sort of inclusive. It's kind.
And hilarious. And I don't often laugh out loud. You make me laugh out loud. You're like, the things that you create are like blasts of sunshine through clouds, or
what a lucky
holy ray. It's like, oh yes.
Well, I just think, okay, I just put myself laughing thinking of that, so it may resonate with other people a bit. And I don't know, it's just, I always start to relax when I hear a comedian ripping the piss out of something that has been fearful and terrifying, or has the potential to be, and you just hear someone making a joke of it. It's like, oh my god, there's still humanity, as long as we can just kind of twist it and see it in a different way and look at the world in a slightly less fearful place. There's always hope. So that's quite important to me. But
so there's so much to unpack in what you've just said, but can you what has been your favorite protest
of my own? Probably the first one, because it was the most it took me on the biggest journey in a different direction from myself. So the first one I remember doing, it was when we were negotiating Brexit, and this wasn't really to do with whether we wanted to stay in or leave. It was just the quality of the negotiations I just thought were awful. I mean, we just seemed really unneighbourly, really hostile. I was embarrassed for our country for being so uninviting, unwelcoming. I didn't like it. And I thought, right, okay, what can I do? And I'm very fortunate I live near King's Cross. And so we got the arrivals thing for the Eurostar. And I went with a friend. I made a big banner. It just said, welcome to Britain. Sorry we're being a bit weird. And I made loads of cakes. And we went down there with lovely banners, all looked really pretty. We stood outside the arrivals hall. And then when people came out, we just went, welcome, come on in, make yourself at home. As though we were just welcoming them to our house and offering cakes. And it was, the reaction was so charming. At first, people thought, are they trying to sell me a carpet? Because obviously you enter a new country and you've got some kind of peddlers there immediately. It's like, no, it's free, just take one. Just, come on in and have a nice time here. And I just really sort of felt empowered by doing it. I just felt less, sort of deflated by the whole thing. And that seemed just to get quite a nice response from the people that we shared it with. And then actually we did another one for people leaving the country, which was a bit like if you were leaving a party, so they got a goodie bag of Britain. And in that, I think there was a kind of a good British joke. There was some British rainwater taken from Regent's Park, so it was good stuff. There was a Tunnocks tea cake, which is lovely, and an Irish tea bag, and maybe something else, I don't know. But they were like little goodie going home bags, and we just doled those out down the queue of people leaving and just said, thanks for coming, have a nice time going home, get back safely. And it just sort of made the whole thing just homely and kind of, made me happy.
Well, what I imagine is that it makes, what makes your protest different is that it makes connections rather than division.
Yes, I think that's probably true. Yeah.
So there's the humour kind of opens people up and warms, and because you're just, as I said, a sort of a ray of sunshine, and you're inviting and sweet and open-hearted.
Yes.
It engages with dialogue and makes connection possible rather than usually with protest it's a big pushing away.
It's a big gang over here and it's a big gang over there, or it's what we're protesting about over there. And this wasn't really supposed to be like that at all. I didn't want to protest about anything. I just wanted to do the thing that was hurting me. This sort of unkindness that seemed to be coming from us. So I just thought, right, well, I'll just do it for myself. I can't.
Had you been protesting before, or was it all banged up in your head, driving you insane?
No, I hadn't really. No, I've been living in a complete bubble for about 50 years. No, I hadn't really sort of protested traditionally at all. That was really the first time, and it really was just about what can I do to change myself, because I have actually at least realised you can't change anybody else, and that's absolutely bloody futile. You just have to change yourself, and then if you change, your energy shifts a bit, and then that might affect somebody else, and you can only start with you. So that's where I began. And then since then, I've just sort of thought, well, if I can sort of say what I feel about that, and that felt good, I'll just start saying about everything that annoys me, like automated checkout machines in supermarkets. They're annoying. They all talk to they all say the same damn thing, but like 3 seconds apart, and it's just like this babble of kind of automated chatter that is absolutely meaningless. Drives me nuts. So I started to sort of have things to say about that, and just sort of now anything that annoys me. Oh yes, escalators, escalators telling you to be careful. It's like, shut up! I don't need a piece of autonomy to tell me to look out for myself.
No escalator has ever told me to be careful. This is obviously a person. It's obviously personal to you. No, never.
Escalators that say hold the handrail, please be careful, don't do this.
Oh, the labels. Oh yeah, they don't talk to me, but they
London, you see, they talk. So you all the way goes down, you go, please hold the handrail, please hold the handrail whilst travelling. And then on the other side, it's saying it to the people going up, and they're all slightly out of sync. So it's like travel and then be safe, and it's like, shut up. So I just made myself a dress. It just said, let go of the handrail. I was standing at the bottom of escalators in King's Cross with a loudspeaker, just going, let go, nothing bad will happen, you'll be fine. So really silly, but mixed.
But delicious. Oh, that's fantastic. Delicious. Have you ever got into trouble? Have you been arrested?
No, I can't be. I look too dithery, and no one quite. I'm just the things I say and do are a bit too slippery. What could you get me for? Telling someone not to hold a handrail? No, that I can't go to jail for that. So no. So far, I've been very lucky, and I just play up being a little bit senile. really helps.
Well, I have a theory that where are you in menopause process? Are you postmenopausal?
Yes, very.
Yeah. So I have this theory that for postmenopausal women, the greyness and the kind of ditheriness is actually a disguise,
Oh God,
a very effective disguise, so people can piss off and leave us alone, and we can get on with doing quite interesting things, and without being interfered with.
It's a superpower. Ditheriness is a superpower to be used whenever anything might confront us that is like, oh, I really haven't got time for that rubbish. I'll just be senile. It's fine. Yeah, it's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I tend to walk up and down because I don't want to be burgled, but I like to keep my door open. I just walk up and down the street looking slightly deranged, and I have a tortoise, so I often rip up bindweed and bits of old weed from around the trees, and people kind of think, oh, that's that nutty woman, and then they see that my door's left open. No one's going to go a million miles near my house with my door open. It's like, oh, she leaves her door open, the maniac woman. So yeah, you just have
to. But you live in North London, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
you must be the only person in North London with their front door open.
I know, and I really, not at night, I close it at night, but during the day, because I think I really object to this whole idea that if I leave my door open and some groat of a burglar comes in and steals something, it's my fault. Why is it my fault? It's like, well, you're asking for trouble, you left your door. I hate that attitude. Like, no, it's the burglar's fault. I was just doing my thing. I didn't steal it. But yeah, that always happens, particularly to women, doesn't it? It's like, oh, well, you're asking for trouble. You were walking down that park, so it's your fault that you get attacked. I just find that kind of shifting of blame onto somebody who's kind of just a bit more open about things quite luring. So I fight it by leaving my door open and then acting like a complete nutcase so that no one comes into it.
That's excellent defense.
Yes, I know.
There could be burglar alarm companies who hire out postmenopausal women to do batty things. Herd cats outside your house. It'd be cheaper than having an expensive alarm system.
You're absolutely right. I also have a kind of, how church halls used to have those lovely little sort of display boards outside their churches to kind of tell you what coffee mornings were going to be on. I have one of those. It has photographs of everything in my house, well, not everything, but the rooms in my house. So any self-respecting burglar will look at it and go, oh God, that's not worth anything. I mean, it's full of things worth about £1. No one's going to really want it. So I thought if I just show it outside the house, they can have a look, scan it, go, there's no telly, there's no, oh God, where's the good stuff? Forget it. I'll go somewhere else. So yeah.
Fantastic. So I wanted tell me about what you're interested in now, what you're getting angry about now, because you seem to have accidentally started a global movement.
Yeah, that was
with your ditheriness, and the
well, yes, I seem
under the radar.
Global movement by mending a pair of socks outside Primark. So what that was is there's this amazing woman called Asala de Castro, and she founded Fashion Revolution about 20 years ago. And more recently, I think even this year, she published a book called Loved Clothes Last. And I hadn't read the book, but I was listening to an interview with her on the radio. And one of the points she was making was with fast fashion, people like her actually exacerbate the problem because they often refer to clothes that are made cheaply as cheap tat. So that the people who buy it, it sort of increases the reputation that this is something you can kind of throw away. They're sort of made to be disposable. And actually, a lot of the clothes are made, they could last a very long time if people cared for them. And I thought, well, I'm just going to sit outside Primark then and mend some old leggings that I think were from Primark. And I made myself a little sign that said, stitch it, don't ditch it. And I sat there and I started mending my leggings. And it sort of had a similar effect to if an artist came and set up an easel and started painting. People just kind of gather round because you're not asking for anyone's attention, so they just sort of feel it's perfectly safe to sort of nuzzle up and have a look. And it started a few conversations, and people were saying, so why are you doing it here? And I said, well, I think people just assume that they can buy some leggings and wear them twice and chuck them. And I'm thinking, well, actually, no, if you're going to buy something, you kind of have to enter into kind of contract with it to keep it going for as long as you possibly can, because, the longer you have a relationship with something, the nicer it is, whether that's people or pets or clothes. So just hold on to it. Keep it going, and actually you do get a slightly better dopamine hit from repairing something than you do from buying it new. And I don't know if it really changed many minds, but I thought I actually really enjoyed that, because already there's something absolutely lovely about sewing, and then doing it outside and talking to people at the same time just felt great. So I put a little post up on Instagram and said, I'm going to do this again. Would anyone like to come with me? And I was genuinely expecting maybe kind of 3 mates to go, yeah, all right, yeah, I'll do it, Suze. And I was absolutely inundated with people saying, well, I can't do it in London, but I'll do it in Edinburgh, and I'll do it in Cardiff, and I'll do it in Leeds, and I'll do it in Australia, and I'll do it in Spain. And it's like, whoa, it was just like phenomenal. It was just incredible. So we all sat for an hour on high streets in our own local areas, and because of social distancing, which actually really helped. So we all had our own chairs, and we just made a line right down the middle of the street, 2 meters apart, all with our Stitch It, Don't Ditch It Street banners on the backs of our chairs. So we didn't need any other banners or nonsense. It was all very self-contained, and didn't get in anybody's way, because we're not there to block roads or do anything. It's just to sit and sort of show a kind of peaceful alternative to buying new stuff. And we did it for 1 hour on the same time and day, which sort of tied in with the Circular Economy Week that was going on in, I think it was June the 14th. And it was just absolutely lovely. And people sort of sent in their photos from all over the world of the day they'd had. No one got into any trouble. There was no kind of aggression. People were just kindly or interested. And because the idea really was not to speak, it wasn't to kind of chat or make any kind of point, it was just to sit and be absorbed in sewing. I produced a kind of online resource on Wakelet, leading to all sorts of online tutorials for how to kind of mend a button, how to everything from sort of embellishing and visible mending and invisible mending and everything else. And everyone just had a QR code with them, so they could just let people take a photo of that. And that was a kind of very easy way to show people how to get started if they wanted to. And so it's all growing and growing. In fact, really excitingly, I don't know if I'm preempting anything, but we may be in Times Square.
Wow!
I just got
so
the news from people in New York City who sort of said, we want to do this in New York. And yeah, kind of Fifth Avenue, Times Square was kind of mentioned. I have no idea what the rules and regulations are.
In Times Square, there isn't traffic anymore, so it would be really possible.
So it may be it may be they can do it. Maybe which is just utterly glorious. I mean, how iconic. I mean, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So the next one is for the 14th of September.
14th of September, okay.
Yeah, which is to tie in with Sustainable Fashion Week. I think we've got about 30 countries on board now.
Wow.
But it's just so lovely just to see this kind of go out. I've totally lost control of it. It's great. And it's such a nice example of one person doing one thing and it just rippling out, and then everyone's owning it and everyone's doing lovely things and connecting. And I think the thing I hadn't kind of quite banked on was that everyone was saying, well, now I've got a community in my little local high street. I've met 7 or 8 or 10 or 20 other people that feel similarly to me, and we're going to keep doing this now. We're going to meet up and do this. And so they all just formed friendship groups, and great. I mean, how nice. Nothing not to like, really.
Fabulous. How did you learn? Who taught you to sew?
Oh, well, actually, rather sweetly, when my daughter was about 5, I found a little local sewing group, and I sort of encouraged her to go with a friend. And this group were brilliant. I mean, it's from sort of 5 up to about 15. But you've got these little 5-year-olds on the sewing machines. It's kind of wow. And after about 3 months, this other girl dropped out. And so my daughter Betty sort of said, I don't want to go anymore. I went, is it because you need a friend? And she went, yeah. So I went, right, I'll be your friend. I'll come. And we did it from the age of 5 to 15. So all those years, and it was just me and a whole bunch of little kids, and I absolutely loved it. It was a lovely way to learn to sew, really inspiring. But having said that, so I knew how to go and make clothing, but I hadn't actually used stitching to mend things, because I'm a printer, because I've got an online business that prints. That's how I've always actually embellished or patched up my own clothes, with printing stuff and printing words. So the whole thing of sort of sitting and actually sewing and mending was actually really new to me this year, and the whole kind of lovely meditative feel of it is something really new to me. So yeah, I'm not an old hand at this at all.
Can young people sew these days? I think that they haven't.
I mean, obviously anybody could. It's not a hard thing to learn to do at all. It's really simple. It's really repetitive. It's, you know, I think we've massively de-skilled ourselves. I think maybe there was, you know, either our generation or the one just behind us had a huge problem with mending things, perhaps to do with, you know, it's sort of connotations with impoverishment, or because, you know, this fast fashion industry has made it so easy and so normal and so kind of appropriate just to chuck and rebuy that no one's thought to mend. It's just not something that comes as a first option anymore. But I think it's changing. I do think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that I'm trying to think about generations and stuff. My mum was born in 27, 25, 27, something like that. So she was a teen in the war years. So obviously she mended, you know, and she'd sit there with her egg or a mushroom and, you know, darn socks and mend things. And there was a pile of mending. You know, this was a big feature in our life, that the evil mending pile. It wasn't meant to be fun.
Did you enjoy mending, or was it a chore?
It was a chore. Turning collars.
Don't know how to
bed sheets. It's kind of bizarre because I come from like really quite a privileged background, but a lot of the stuff that my mum did was very thrifty. So bed sheets were not thrown out when they wore thin in the middle. You cut them in half in the middle and turn them round so that the edges, which were more, which weren't worn, were in the middle.
Cunning.
Cuffs were turned.
Yeah. But yes, I don't quite know why we lost the skill, but certainly I, you know, starting to speak to a lot of people who are going into schools now and teaching sewing and mending and sustainability, either as a kind of after school activity, or it's, you know, starting to enter the curriculum. So I think, you know, this generation coming up, well, they can't afford not to. I mean, it's not even a kind of lifestyle choice, is it? It's just, that's how we have to be. We have to consume less. It's not even a personal choice.
Yeah. And the fashion industry is, I mean, people are slowly waking up to the amount of pollution and the amount of destruction it causes.
Slowly.
I don't know if they still do, but big kind of high-end fashion names like Burberry used to put unsold items into landfill, didn't they?
Yes, because so it couldn't be copied or it couldn't be cheapened.
Do they still do that?
As far as I know, they still do it. Also, large online shops, when they get returns, straight in landfill, because it's cheaper than paying people to kind of go through the return and repackage it and put it back on the shelf, and it's just easier just to send it straight to landfill. So you literally get this system where something is made at the huge expense of the, you know, the economy that it's being made in and the environment it's being made in, and then gets shipped around the bloody world to Europe, which at great cost and expense.
It gets shipped all over the place because the buttons come in and it gets zipped over there and zipped over there, and yeah, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, transport everywhere, and then someone in Europe probably buys a thing, tries it on, doesn't fit, they send it back, and it gets shipped all the way back again to where it came from and dumped in a pile. I mean, it's revolting. That the whole cycle of it is nauseating, really is, and yet it's absolutely commonplace. So yes, not good.
I didn't know about the returns thing.
Yeah. It's not even gifted, it's just chucked. Maybe, you know, again, because people are starting to find out about this, I think there was quite a good programme on ITV a month or two ago, which I think a lot of people saw. I think, you know, it could very quickly change, because as soon as we vote with our money and just step away and go, I'm not doing that, they have no option but to change. I mean, we're the people paying for all this. For some reason, I think people think if they buy something, that's kind of like the end of the chain with them buying it. It's not. I mean, it's a circle, and we buy into the circle, and it just keeps going, and we just need to pull out the circle, and then the whole thing will collapse eventually. We all have a lot of power, really.
Yeah. You had a neat phrase, which I spotted somewhere, about the power of your personal spending. I said it was a question. Oh, it was a question. Can't remember.
Oh, like, yes, I know what you're referring to. I can't remember what I said.
The only question is, bugger, I've forgotten.
Yeah, sorry.
There's only one question, and it's.
Yeah, I can't remember either. Never mind.
Can you tell me a bit about this process where you realized how your head worked, and that something you stopped getting angry about everything, and it came out like a Pez, you said. So
Yeah,
something changed with that in your creative process.
Sorry, has something changed with that?
Something changed in the way that you were behaving in your creative process.
I think I just freed my time up, actually, because before lockdown, I was just sort of working 7 days a week, 20 hours a day, pretty much, on making my online business as successful as it could be. And I had people working with me, and I had warehouses and this and that. And it was one of those things where I kind of realized during lockdown, because I was really, really lucky. I already worked from home. Nothing really shifted for me in a big way. I didn't lose loved ones. I didn't lose my job or my home. I kind of just carried on and actually did better. And I was thoroughly miserable about it. And I thought, well, this is really odd. I'm doing well and I'm really miserable. Why would this be? And I kind of just realized I hadn't really allowed my brain to disengage from just working on the stuff that I had to do to allow myself to react to what was coming into the world around me. And I felt I was just on the sidelines emotionally with things I wanted to connect more to. And so I really radically changed everything about my job. And now it's just me, and I work 1 day a week, and I have 6 days a week to react, which is the most liberating and wonderful thing ever. And so because of that, I was able to work out how I would react, and I kind of needed a system for reacting, otherwise it's just chaotic.
And tell me about that. What is the system for reacting?
Well, to only react until, or not to react until it makes me laugh. That's it. So just never react out of anger, out of frustration, never moan. I can't bear moaning. It's like, there must be something I can do before I moan, anything. And then, yeah, that's really, really freed me as a kind of thinker, really, massively.
Just thinking about that.
So I can give you an example, if you like.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
So during lockdown, I've been speaking to my dad on the phone every day. We have not been very close for a very long time, but I wanted to know how he was. We started talking, and because he didn't have very much to say, he would read me every morning an extract from the Daily Telegraph. That was his way of communicating. Okay, fine. And it was always about either Donald Trump, or actually mainly about Donald Trump at the time because he was still president. And I was starting to get a little riled by the fact that my dad seemed to need to tell me something really quite destructive every morning. But I could see that his hatred for the man was kind of keeping him alive. So I thought, I can't stop him. I did try a few times. I said, can we now talk about something else? And he'd go, yeah, absolutely. And the next morning he'd forgotten, he'd start reading out the paper again. So I thought, okay, how can I not get cross with my dad for telling me endlessly about Donald Trump's lies? I thought, I know. In the way that kind of airlines offset their flights or their emissions by planting trees, I'm going to offset all the lies that my dad tells me from the paper by planting a flower. And I'm going to build a garden. So now I'm going to look forward to hearing these bloody lies, because every one I'm going to make a stick with what the lie is and stick it in the ground and plant a flower next to it and make something nice to offset all the lies. So there we are. That's an example of sort of like, it was bugging me and now it's not bugging me anymore because I've got an outlet.
You've got a beautiful thing. And where is the Garden of Lies?
It is actually opposite my house. There's a bit of kind of like public land, and I've just guerrilla gardened it. Sure, yeah, it's still there. So.
And the lies, presumably the lies aren't growing into something else.
No, the lies are just there. But obviously the flowers are. But I'm not changing the lies. So yeah, the one I was testing my eyesight particularly well. Yeah, most of them are the good classics that everyone knows and loves. So yeah.
And what did you like to wear? Because you have a beautiful sense of style. It's kind of like your humor. It's quirky and vibrant and very witty. What did you like to wear when you were a kid?
I've always worn about 6 things too many because I absolutely love colour, but I love the combinations of colour. You know, you put sort of 2 together, it becomes a bit more interesting. You put 6 together, it's like, oh God, this is gorgeous. And so I would just keep adding until I had a kind of colour combination that made me incredibly happy. I mean, colour really does affect me. I actually became sexually attracted to a sofa about 2 years ago. It was a weird experience of my life. I was walking down the New King's Road and all those auction rooms, and there was this sofa in the window, and I was staring at it, and I was like embarrassed to look at it. It was like, oh my God, and my pupils were dilating. I started to sweat, and I realized it was a particular color combination, which was a kind of mint green with a very soft pink, and then these little hints of gold and maybe something else. And it was just like, oh. Yes, I get very emotionally attacked. I have to really calm down. I sit on it. Christ, that would have been far too forward of me. But yes, I have always really enjoyed colour. So actually what I wear is completely secondary to what colour it is. Yeah, so pile it on until... Do you
have synesthesia, do you think?
I don't even know what that is. I'm sorry.
It's a neurological thing where you, when particular words are associated, not just associated with a particular colour, but seen as a particular colour.
No, I don't.
So it's a combination of where the senses get all wiggly woggled together.
And yes, I know what you mean now. Thank you. But no, I don't have words for the colours at all. No, I think I have sort of frequencies for them. If you know what I mean. But I know that's personal to me. Whether colours have frequencies, I guess they do. And I'm quite.
So how do you feel that? How do you understand that in yourself?
I have absolutely no idea really. All I know is that if I need to buy something to match, say I don't know, something in my house, and I need to buy something to match it, I can go kind of 2 months later and see a whole wall of colours and just be able to pick out the 3 that go with it absolutely perfect. It must be a frequency thing, because I'm not really looking at the colours. I can't even see straight. But something about these colours just sort of go, all right, that. It's, yeah, I don't know what it is. It's yes, I suppose it's like good duets. They say, don't they, that the voices of the 2 women in ABBA, even if you like ABBA songs or you don't like ABBA songs, there's something about the quality of their 2 voices put together that just gives everyone goosebumps, because it's just hit that thing that, yeah. So I guess I'm like that with colour.
And you were born that way.
Yeah, must have been.
So
I didn't learn anything. In fact, I don't even know what a colour wheel is. I went to art school. I was the only one that couldn't fill in the colour wheel. I was hopeless. I don't even understand. And it took, I don't know, I think I still didn't know how to make brown until about 3 years ago. So it certainly isn't anything learned. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So did you what was the last proper job you done? You said you were a printer. Have you had a proper job?
Yeah, I worked in advertising for the first 15 years of my adult life. I've always loved advertising from the age of about 5. I remember just watching the ads. I didn't care about the programs in the middle. It was just the ads. I was actually fixated on it, because it was like a party game. Sort of, okay, here's this product and you've got to sell it. And it felt like a party game to me. And so I went to art school. I went to the Royal College of Art, and I just studied advertising all by myself. There wasn't a course for it. I was on the graphics course, but I made advertising up for myself in a very strange way. I mean, lots of fish and stuff. It was all bonkers. Anyway, I managed to get a job, and I had an absolutely lovely time doing it. I mean, being part of sort of a bigger team of creative people all making quite interesting things. And I was really lucky. I worked for a very creative agency, so it was very good. So that was a first sort of third of my life, telling people to buy stuff. And then the second third was me making my own stuff and saying, people, please buy this. And now in the third of my kind of working life, I'm saying, don't buy anything. So yeah, I've come full circle. Really.
Yeah, it's certainly cyclical, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think advertising combined lots of stuff I loved doing. So I love writing, I love performing, and if you're going to, try and sell an idea to a client, you actually have to perform the damn thing. And I was also the art director, so everything about it just hit all my happy buttons, really. But in the end, I left because I came to realise, as does every creative in advertising, that the nearer you are to the creative idea, the less control you have over anything that happens to it. And it can be just immensely frustrating because you have to always care passionately and then be prepared to totally give it all up. And that kind of dual thing starts to drive people mad after a while.
Yeah. And you've had some difficulty with people's nicking your designs as well, haven't you? Thinking of letting go.
Oh, well, yes, that has always been the case. And yes, I think one thing I learned, particularly with the street stitching thing, is that I would always get so upset because I just value originality over almost anything else. And I always think that other people that are going to make things or create things should also value that. I mean, maybe it's not very valuable, I'm not sure, but it always has been to me. So the fact that I kind of created something and then someone else has just taken it just seems like such a violation. So I would always get very angry, but I never did anything about it. I never took legal advice. I just got riled. And it's only kind of quite recently, in something like the street stitching thing, it's not about my idea or me or anything egocentric. It's just about, oh right, what can I give out? What can I think of that I can give away completely for free to as many people as possible, and just change that mindset. And that's really helped me mentally.
It sounds much calmer.
Yes.
less exhausting.
Absolutely, and so much more effective. So much more effective.
Yeah, well, you can see, it's gone from pre-mark to global.
It makes you braver as well. It makes me braver. There's so many things I wouldn't quite dare to do if it was for me. But when it's not about me anymore, you sort of think, well, I've got to make this happen because this is good for everyone. So, and then you just start asking people for stuff or just putting yourself out there in a way that I would not have dared to do before.
Can you give us an example?
Just people I've contacted and sort of said, you might want to get involved in this. I would have not dared. I'm not going to say who, but I wouldn't have dared to go. I thought, well, they're not going to be interested in me. What are you talking? And they wouldn't have been. I mean, that's the thing. They wouldn't have been interested in me. Why would they be? But in something that isn't about me, it's it has caught their interest, and it's just a whole kind of shift, isn't it, of stuff.
It's
ownership.
We can't really own ideas, can we?
No, and I was a fool when I thought I could. Yeah. Because that's what you trade when you work, when you make things for yourself, or when you try to have original ideas. That is your trade. That is the thing that you're paid to do. So it seems really valuable to keep. And I have learned it's not.
And it's impossible, because one thing is inevitably built. The next art movement is inevitably built on the previous one.
Yeah.
Either as a reaction or a development or a something or other.
Completely. And we're all connected up, of course. And I now just believe that anything that enters my head is not mine. It's just come through me and is going to go somewhere else. And it's a really pleasing, easy way to see thought now.
So what do you get up to when you're not reacting and being invited to do crazy things by people where you're required to step up?
I love walking. Absolutely love walking, and particularly in lockdown, I suppose, like everyone, I kind of just walked everywhere. And I started this silly little project. I'm always doing a silly little project. That's what I do to relax. Oh, apart from obviously kind of meeting friends and that kind of thing. But any little private project. And this one was about finding words within the roads of areas that finding letters within streets that spelt words. It was because there's a great guy, I think he's called Simon Ward, and he does a thing called the Boring Lectures, which obviously far from boring. Of course they're not, they're brilliant. But the Boring Lectures is a great thing. And I really wanted to do one. And I was thinking, I can't think of anything boring enough. And I thought, I know, if I manage to walk the word boring, I can do a boring walk, and I can show people what they'll see along the boring walk, which invariably is quite interesting, because the places where streets form lots of kind of curves and things that can be O's and R's and G's and all joined together are in older parts of London because of the whole cityscaping, if you know what I mean. It's not just a grid like modern. So those are the most interesting areas, and I managed to find boring in loads of them. So I've been walking boring. I've been doing the boring walk in my spare time at the moment, which is a daft thing to be doing.
And
And again, I love it. Completely random. I have no control over where I'm going to go. I've got to follow the line of the G, and wherever that takes me, that's where I go. And it's like, oh, there's something really interesting over there, but oh, I can't because I'm on my G. All right, I have to go around this corner instead. So I like that. I like the loss of control I have over it.
Yeah, I like to try and go a different way when I'm walking.
Absolutely.
And see something new, even though I quite like the old ways. The old ways are quite soothing and pleasing, but there's always something new and interesting, because I feel more alive if I'm going somewhere a different path.
Quite.
More wakey. I like the boring. I think I know what you're talking about with the boring lectures. They had one on, the woman did one on the stamps on cardboard boxes. It's a podcast, right?
That sounds absolutely right. I haven't heard that one, but yes.
I used to use them to send me to sleep in the middle of the night, but they were too interesting.
They're all interesting because they're so fanatical. The one I remember is about a man who records his sneezes, and so he has this huge journal, and every time he sneezes, he writes down what he was doing when he sneezed, what he did immediately after he sneezed, and the velocity of the sneeze. Obviously, also the date and the time. And so he said, yeah, it's interesting because you get to kind of actually mark times that otherwise you would never mark. So like between getting up to turn the television on and the television coming on is now kind of a moment of time that otherwise would never be recorded. And he was saying he's been doing it now for quite a long time. And he's at a dinner party and he sneezed. He went, oh, excuse me. And he kind of wrote this down on a scrap of paper so he could put it in the journal. They go, well, yeah, what are you doing? I record my sneezes. And they go, right, how long have you been doing that? He went, oh, 5 years. And suddenly they go, oh my God, really? And they're really interested. He said that the only difference between something that's incredibly boring and something that's really interesting is time. If you've been doing it for long enough, it becomes really interesting. The kind of the fanaticism of it becomes interesting. Where if he said, oh, I've never done it before in my life, they just think, oh, that's pretty boring. So I thought that was quite an interesting little insight into how you just keep doing it.
I have a poster from, I think it's from some art school, written by an art school teacher in my kitchen, and there's lots of rules, but rule number 7 is do the work.
Yeah.
And as somebody who, I'm always sort of, anxious, but I'm not sure, I'm prone to the wibbles.
Yes, the wibbles. It's a lovely word.
I'm prone to wibbles, and that can take up a lot of energy and a lot of time when I'm wibbling. And rule number 7 is like, okay, you just do the work.
Yeah.
And there's something about noting down the sneeze or making the mark or writing the thing or whatever the work is.
It's the commitment to the non-idea, isn't it?
And it's incredibly powerful. And it doesn't matter if it's shit,
Oh God, the shitter the better. If you're completely committed to always do the same shit thing, that's just going to be mind-blowingly interesting after a while.
Okay, but wouldn't that be fun? Let's do that. Let's get up every morning and do something shit.
Exactly, same time, same place, every day.
10 years. World changing.
Yeah.
So I always ask my guests for their tip on how to have a satisfying inner life. How do you make your inner life happy?
Well, I think for one thing, not to expect that it's always got to be happy. I think we all strive for happiness as some kind of future goal that we will arrive at when we do this, and this. And to know that it's available at any time in the present moment, but that if it isn't there, that doesn't even matter either. That kind of there isn't really a right or a wrong, and that happiness can be very elusive, and that's fine. And to kind of be happy to not feel happy, if you see what I mean, is quite big for me. I think also the kind of, okay, whenever I get really stressed about something, I've got to fill in some bloody HMRC form and I don't know what I'm doing. It all just seems really tense. I just have to remember that, like, I am so infinitesimally tiny, and everyone that works at HMRC is also so infinitely tiny, and we're like a little grain of sand, on one beach in this world, and that's kind of where we are in the universe, and nothing bloody matters. Fuck, really. Some people might find that depressing. I actually find it utterly liberating. No one knows what they're doing. Humans have made up everything, it doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter at all. We're all too insignificant for anything to matter very much. So that keeps me fairly grounded. My own deep insignificance.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Context.
It just doesn't matter. And also, I think, slightly going back to what I was saying before, this rather than coming to any situation with what can I get out of it, is like, what can I do to help? What can I give? And that's been a massive sort of mind change to me. And also, this sounds really, really corny, I know, but I actually have it pinned to my computer, which is the little line, what would I do if I wasn't scared?
Right. That's good. Well, I think that's designed for life.
Yeah.
School of life stuff, that. Fantastic, thank you. So, stitching on the 14th of September.
On and around. Yeah, the Sustainable Fashion Week, I think, goes from the 11th to the 19th.
Okay.
I thumped for the Tuesday, the 14th, just because on the particular street I'm on, which is in Bromley, there's nothing else taking place that day. Okay. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of markets or whatever. So I plumped for that one. So a lot of other people are doing it on that day. But any time around that week, if anyone wants to do it, it would be glorious.
And how do they connect with you to find?
So there's a website which is just streetstitching.com, and if they go to that, they can find either how to join an existing group or how to start their own, plus QR codes and a little bit more about the whole thing, and also the most lovely gallery of chairs and chair backs, really nice, that people have done already. Or if they're on Instagram, they can follow at Street Stitching, or they can follow me, because I also post about it all on my own site, which is at Twisted Twee.
And your shop doesn't exist anymore?
It does. It exists on Mondays.
You could order something, but it might not come for a while.
Yeah, I print and post every Monday, so yeah, it'll take a week.
And what is that website, please? If people want to buy it, because your stuff is gorgeous and funny and needs to be purchased.
Thank you very much. It's pretty daft, and actually, as part of Twisted Twee is the clothing hospital, which I'm a bit more excited about.
Tell us about that then.
Well, that's just about people sending me their pre-loved clothes that might now be a bit knackered or they might be a bit bored of, and I will just embellish it with words or with sort of thoughts or whatever people want, and then post it back to them. So
wow,
new again and exciting and a bit of a bespoke thing. So there's quite a lot of clothing hospital stuff on Twisted Twee, and lots of examples of things that I've made. So that's quite nice.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Suzi, for changing the world, for being instigating an out of control global movement for good, and making so many people happy. If you want to find out more about Stitch It, Don't Ditch It, you can find the information at streetstitching.com. And Suzi's shop, where you can buy brilliantly bonkers gifts, is Twisted Twee. That's Twisted TWE.co.uk. I'd love to hear your responses to our conversation. How do you manage the panic and the difficulty of this overwhelming environmental catastrophe? What do you do? Do pop over to Instagram, where I'm Kate_Codrington. We can have a chat. If you've enjoyed this episode, it would be just fabulous. I'd be so grateful if you felt able to share it with a friend who might like it. And maybe you'll go street stitching together on the 14th during Sustainable Fashion Week. Who knows? And don't forget to join me next week, where we're going on an exciting voyage into the inside world of sleep and perimenopause. Goodbye.